This is the newest rack from REP Fitness called the Omni Rack. It's designed to be a flat foot design that they say is the best squat rack for home gyms, meaning they think it's better than their PR5000. Is it? Let's find out. Hey guys, it's Coop from Garage Gym Reviews, and today we are reviewing, this is the REP Fitness HR5000, kind of, that's one of the names they're using for it. It's also known as the Omni Rack. And I say HR5000 because when we got it in, it says on the box HR5000, and it's actually based on, I think their original intention for this was it was based on the original HR5000 that we've reviewed in the past. The one that we had was a black metallic half rack, and I think what they did with this was they decided, hey, let's take the compatibility and the nice features of a half rack and give you the opportunity to expand in the future if you'd like to. So the real difference, and I want to say this from the start because this is the question we get most often. I asked on Instagram, hey, what do you guys want to know? And I would say majority of the questions were, hey Coop, what really is the difference between this, the Omni Rack, and the REP PR5000? Because they look very similar, they're priced very similar, they have very similar features. What's with, like one person said, the obscure marketing? So this is the main difference. This one has a flat foot design, and I'll get into why that matters and why that may be important to you depending on who you are. But the flat foot design is different from the PR5000 that uses posts, and those are what's standing on the ground, and then it's using cross members just like this one uses up top, but it's also using them on the bottom. Let's get into some of the specs. Come on. So this is the REP upright that they're using on the Omni Rack, but it's the same thing they're using on the PR5000, and it's the same they're using on the PR4000. The only difference is the hole sizing. So it's a 3x3, well, it's 3 inch by 3 inch, but it's not exactly 3 inch by 3 inch because they're using metric instead of imperial, like Rogue and Sornex is using. So just to show you, I've got my handy dandy measure device here. People are gonna make fun of me because I forget what it's called, but it is 75.5. And if I take this over, and this is a cross member from a Rogue Monster Rack, these come out to 76.78 or so. So they're a little bit different. However, really that matters if you're using attachments, and pretty much any attachment that I've tried on the REP rack, it fits. It's not as tight, say the trolley system, it's not as tight. There can be some issues if you're using J-cups or spotter safeties or something like that. I have seen some problems. In fact, I got a buddy, Brandon Campbell Diamond, who has said that he's had some issues with some of the flip down safeties, but overall they work. This erector style rack is nice because it's using the 1-inch holes on all sides. So these are laser cut holes that it's the same, it's a 4-way hole post. So it's the same here as it is on here, but it's got an offset hole. Something like Sornex is using a 4-way hole post that uses the holes on the same side. And then Rogue is using offset holes, but it also has a teardrop on it, which they use some like unique functionality for the keyhole function. So other than that, it's a basic 3x3 upright. It's the same thing you'd find on the PR5000. So the main difference is that at the top, they're using the same cross members as they use on the PR5000, but on the bottom, they're using the flat foot design. So this flat foot design right here is the main differentiator, as I've said, between this and the PR5000, and the main differentiator between this rack, the Omni Rack, and pretty much every other 6-post style rack that's out there. But this is the biggest selling point, and this is the reason that you may be interested in it. I say may be interested in it because it may work better for your situation than some of the others. I'm not sure. If you want a half rack or want to start with a half rack, but want the option to upgrade eventually, then this is a pretty good option. And the reason I say that is because this flat foot design increases stability whenever you're using a half rack. I've used the HR5000, it's really nice. I actually like the flat foot design. I don't think it's, you know, a huge differentiator between the other, but the flat foot design would allow you to use a half rack design, but still have a ton of stability, even if you don't have weight on the back. The other benefit is if you want to start smaller, but want the ability to upgrade over time using the same base, You can. So with the PR5000, you basically can do the same thing. The difference is you're gonna have to buy additional cross members over time, and the stability on a half rack for the REP, if you don't have weight on the back for the PR5000, is gonna be less stable. So this thing, as you can see, I've got weight on here, but it's extremely stable. And that's why this may be advantageous if you are somebody who definitely doesn't want to bolt it to the ground, because they recommend you bolt the ones that, you know, are post to the ground. I don't think that necessarily matters. I don't think that's a huge point. Like, I've used them all the time without bolting them down, and I've never had them fall over. If it's just a 4-post rack, that may matter, but a 6-post rack, it doesn't matter. However, if you want to use this with a smaller post, or you want to adjust the depth of the post or decide how many posts you use over time, this is a good option. As well, you can bolt them back to back. So you can have half racks bolted on either side, which is great for like a university or commercial setting, and probably not as important for most home gyms. Now, the attachments that are accepted on this are the exact same that are accepted for the PR5000, meaning you can use ISO arms on here, you can use the monolift arms, you can use the competitors options, you can use different pull-up handles, all those sorts of things. So if you want to add all those different attachments to it, you can use it, but I would say this is another benefit to having the flat foot design, is if you decide to go with the half rack option, if you didn't have the flat foot design and you didn't have weight on the back, it'd be pretty difficult to use some of the attachments like the ISO arms, or say adjustable jammer arms, or the LT1 50 cal trolley system from Rogue on the rack without shaking it and moving it a lot. And that's like, for instance, I recently reviewed the SR4000 from REP, which is like their squat stand version of this, and it's the most stable squat stand that's on the market. But there's an issue, and it's the same issue with this one. And that is that the footprint that this takes up is the same size as a 6-post rack, regardless of if you're using 6 posts or not. So what I mean by that is this flat foot design, this piece right here, this bottom cross member, it's not modular, it's the same length no matter what. You could bolt another one to it, but this is the length that your rack's gonna be. So even if you're using it as a half rack or squat stand or whatever, it's gonna be this width, which means that footprint is gonna be taken up. Yeah, it may not be taken up vertically, but that piece right there is gonna be in the way no matter what. That has benefits because you can, say, put band pegs, which are right here, to attach to the bar outside of the rack to be used for, you know, different accommodating resistance for squats, deadlifts, or like pull-ups, things like that. However, you may run into it. It's taking up space in your gym. Home gyms, like, you're trying to like maximize the versatility for the footprint that you can have, and this one is taking up quite a bit of space regardless of the length that you've got. Now, the other like factor that I think most of you are consider, and you guys always consider, is the price. Is how does this compare in price to the other options that are out there? These have started because of steel prices and other factors. They're starting to get into the realm price-wise of a Rogue Monster Rack or a Sorinex rack. The shipping may not be there, but like the price is closer from what I've seen than what it used to be. And you know, Rogue probably will over time increase their prices more too because of steel costs, and you know, REP may as well. So you're not just factoring REP on a value basis anymore. I think this is a good value rack, but I don't think it's like the greatest value that's out there. And when you compare this to the PR5000, you look at it and it's like, I went through their spreadsheet because it's kind of hard to see the pricing right now because everything's out of stock, so I kind of had to like manipulate it. From what I can tell, this rack with strap safeties, weight posts, 6 posts, pull-up bar, and logo crossmember is about $1,970, $1,970 to $1,980, which is pretty much the exact same cost as the PR5000 with the exact same mock-up and layout. This, in my opinion, isn't infinitely modular, and what I mean by that is this base, you'd have to connect another base, which, yeah, it would make it modular, but it wouldn't connect in the same way that cross members do for the bottom. So ultimately, this is kind of what it comes down to. Do you want to use it as a half rack, or do you want to use it as a full rack? And where do you plan on putting it? I think for me, because I'm putting weight on it, there really isn't much of an experience difference between this and a PR5000. If I was using a 6-post rack, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. There's really not that much of a difference. However, If I was gonna use this rack, honestly, I would probably use it as a half rack. I really like the HR 5000, and I think this is better suited for that. If you're out there and you're like, should I get this or should I get a PR 5000? In my opinion, they're really so similar, it's kind of like a cannibalizing product. It's not that much different. I think for most people, if you want a 6-post rack from the beginning, just go with the PR 5000 if you're going from rep. If you're wanting to start with a half rack or you just want a half rack, I think this option is good. It was just a little bit confusing, I think, in the marketing, because it's like, well, this looks and acts and seems like a PR 5000, and in reality, it pretty much is. All right, let's answer some of your questions. Okay, so on Instagram, I posted on there and I asked, what do you guys want to know about the rack? Some of these questions I may have answered already, but this will be in a summary format. The first one is, how does it taste? Great question, let's find out. Tastes kind of like Big Red, cinnamony, you know, pinkish, which I think the red on this, like this I would say is one of my least favorite reds that's out there. You know, this is very personal. Some of you guys would probably love this red. Me personally, I prefer a more dark red. This is more of a, like, it's got a little bit of a pink tint to it when you get it in front of you. However, I may be colorblind, but whatever. Okay. Number 2, why get this rack versus a PR 5000 with the same post layout? Great question. I kind of answer that. I would say for most people, I think the PR 5000 is probably a better bet. However, like they're just so similar. I mean, if you want a half rack, go with this one. Compatibility with accessories from Rogue, Titan, all the others. This is gonna work best with accessories from other companies that are importing. So this is gonna work well with a Titan accessories for their Titan series. It's gonna work well with the Frey series, or the Frey Savage series, I think is what it's called. It's gonna work well with the Griffin rack. They've got some accessories I think they're working on. It's gonna work well with those companies. It will work with Sorinex and Rogue. However, they're using a little bit bigger upright, so it's not gonna be one-to-one and perfect, but it'll be pretty close and it'll work fine. Is there any wobble to the rack that's bolted down or without it being bolted down? No, I have weight on the back, and what I would suggest, like all racks, is making sure before you bolt and tighten everything down, you just let it settle. So you build it all together, you leave all the bolts like untightened, and then you come through and you just tighten them all, and then it's gonna sit flat. Now, my garage is sloping, but it's sloping down towards the drive, which pretty much everybody's is. That's how it works. So it works fine on this. However, if I turned it, there would be more likelihood for wobble, but if you just let it settle first, it's not gonna wobble. I would say that the PR 5000 may be easier to get aligned because it's got all the individual posts that are touching the ground, where this is just a flat post on the bottom. However, you know, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think they're probably pretty similar. Okay, that's it. That's a review. Would I recommend this rack? Yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend it that much more than the PR 5000. I think they're both good racks. They're a good value. I like the 1-inch hole post. I know some people prefer the 5-inch hole post that you can then get the west side hole spacing. However, the attachments that are coming out are really going towards the 1-inch 3x3. So I think if you want to upgrade over time, this style rack is your better option. However, they're not offering a ton of uprights with this. Right now it's just 93 inches, where the rep rack, I think they're offering some different heights. So overall, I think the PR 5000 is the better option for most people. But like I said, if you want a half rack or want to start with a half rack, don't want to bolt it down, this is a good option. Now, before we end the review, I do want to hint on something that Rep actually sent me. They sent me some photos using a unique attachment style idea they came up with for the Omni Rack, specifically for the Omni Rack, that uses these half uprights instead of full uprights on the front, which then makes it kind of like the old school hammer strength sumo racks that allows you to still feel like you're in an open-ended rack, but it has strap safeties and the use of those sorts of safeties because it's got those front posts. I think it's a cool idea. I'm curious to see like if they do more with that and come out with other ideas, but I think it's worth noting if you're going to get the Omni Rack or you're trying to decide between the PR 5000 and the Omni Rack, that's something to be looking out for in the future. All right, this is Coop from Garage and Reviews. What do you think? We'll see you next time. Peace.